Convincingly portraying an entirely separate person whilst also remembering lines, adjusting to costume and trying not to trip over the set is an extremely challenging profession. So thank the heavens there are enough talented actors out there that are mad enough to put themselves through it for our entertainment. It's sad then that there are so many great performances that go unnoticed by the masses. Well, not anymore. I'm Cy for WhatCulture.com and these are 10 low-key amazing performances in movies. Number 10. Ken Stott, The Hobbit Trilogy. As soon as it was announced that a 310-page book was going to be stretched out over a trio of 3-hour-long movies, fans suspected that the Hobbit films were going to be more about raking in cash than paying a loving homage to Tolkien's first novel. Whether or not that was the case you can all argue about in the comments below, but that doesn't mean there isn't a lot to like about the movies, in particular the performance of veteran Scottish actor Ken Stott as Brolin. One of the company of dwarves, Brolin is portrayed as the oldest and wisest member of the gang. His soft tones and luscious beard are the perfect counter to Thorin's youthful arrogance as he attempts to keep the hot-headed prince in line. In the crazy world of dragons, orcs and magical gems, Stott is an extremely calming presence and helps guide Bilbo and the audience through the story. He might not have a giant bow or be able to breathe fire, but Brolin is perhaps the most overlooked part of the Hobbit trilogy. Number 9. Marion Cotillard, Big Fish. Based on the 1998 book of the same name, Big Fish details the relationship between William Bloom and his dying father Edward. Mr. Bloom Sr. is known for his tall tales, which have driven a wedge between him and his son. However, as his father nears the end of his life, Will discovers that there might be more truth to the stories than he first thought. The movie features an absolutely stacked cast, including Ewan McGregor as a young Edward, Jessica Lange as Will's mum, and Danny DeVito as a werewolf. Sure, why not? Stealing the show though is Marion Cotillard as Josephine, Will's heavily pregnant wife. As an outsider to the Bloom family drama, Josephine serves as the voice of reason for her husband, helping him to shake off his preconceptions about his dad. She also represents the future of the family, as Will must decide how much he wants to copy his father's parenting techniques with his own offspring. Also, it's Marion Cotillard. She could have played a tree and still have been excellent. Number 8. Darlene Kate, What's Eating Gilbert Grape. When talking about eye-catching performances and 1998's What's Eating Gilbert Grape, your mind immediately wanders to a 19-year-old Leonardo DiCaprio. In one of his first major roles, Leo plays Arnie, the mentally disabled brother of the titular character. At the time, DiCaprio was lauded for a magnificent performance, capturing the sympathetic essence of the character to a T. But this list is all about the hipster choices, so let's talk about Gilbert and Arnie's mother, Bonnie. Played by the late Darlene Kate, Bonnie fell into a pit of depression after her husband took his own life. As a result, she became morbidly obese, unable to leave the house through physical impairment and shame. Considering she wasn't an actor before being offered the part, Kate puts in a fantastic showing. She loves her kids, but just isn't able to overcome her physical and mental obstacles to provide them with a decent life. It's tragic, especially if you watch right to the end. Kate more than holds her own alongside both DiCaprio and Johnny Depp, something very few others can lay claim to. Number 7. Walter Goggins, The Hateful Eight. You might know him for The Righteous Gemstones or Invincible, but Goggins is also a favourite of everyone's favourite foot enthusiast Quentin Tarantino. He's appeared in both of the director's westerns, 2012's Django Unchained and 2015's The Hateful Eight. In this piece, he plays Chris Mannix, an all-round no-hoper who masquerades as the sheriff of Red Rock, Wyoming. Goggins is up against some serious talent in this movie, sharing the screen with Samuel L. Jackson, Kurt Russell, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Bruce Dern and Tim Roth, and yet he more than holds his own, often providing some much needed comic relief. From the moment we meet Mannix, he is clearly a fish out of water. He isn't the rough, tough cowboy type that is personified in so many of his co-stars. I mean, he doesn't even have facial hair, for crying out loud. Still, he's an essential part of the story and ended up as a lot of viewers' favourite member of the squad. Number 6. Bruce Willis, Moonrise Kingdom. Wes Anderson is known for many things, giving his characters preposterous names, framing his shots like they were paintings, having actors look directly down the lens of the camera when they speak, but perhaps his most famous trope is his reliance on the same group of actors for almost all of his films. Owen Wilson, Tilda Swinton, Adrian Brody, Bill freaking Murray, Wes certainly has his favourites, so it is a lot when the director decides to look outside of his inner circle for talent. Enter Bruce Willis. The action man's only Anderson appearance came in 2011's Moonrise Kingdom, a firm favourite amongst fans of the auteur. He plays Captain Sharp, head of police on the small island where the action takes place. Willis keeps up with the snappy dialogue of the film, and his turn as one of the more serious characters in the piece is more than welcome. Considering that Anderson originally envisioned the role going to the legendary Jimmy Stewart, we think that Willis more than compensated. Ah yes, John McClane and the guy from It's a Wonderful Life. A natural comparison. Number 5. Charlotte Rampling, 45 Years. Though not a household name, English actor Charlotte Rampling has been around for a very long time. You might know her best as Dr. Evelyn Vogel in Dexter, but she's also appeared in The Damned, Vanishing Point, and the Assassin's Creed movie. Look, we can't all make good choices all of the time. In 2015, Rampling played opposite Tom Courtenay in Andrew High's 45 Years. The pair played the Mercers, Kate and Jeff, a married couple about to celebrate their 45th anniversary. However, things get a little bumpy when Kate discovers that her husband might have had something to do with the death of his ex-girlfriend decades ago. The film gets pretty dark pretty quickly as both lead actors ramp up the extremes of their characters. Jeff becomes more angry and erratic whilst Kate sinks further and further into herself. Rampling is a woman trapped in an unthinkable situation. Everything she thought she knew about the past has changed and she's got no idea what to do. The fact that this is all happening to a couple who look like they could be your neighbours only adds to the drama. Number 4. Chris Hemsworth, Rush. There are a lot of people that love Formula 1 and there are a lot of people that think it's boring, but the best way to make F1 interesting is to condense the action of a single season into one manageable chunk. And that's precisely what Ron Howard did when he brought to the world Rush in 2013. It tells the story of the epic rivalry between Australian diver Niki Lauda and British ace James Hunt. The two men were polar opposites. Lauda was an ultra-serious professional, whilst his rival was a carefree playboy who relied solely on natural talent. Whilst Lauda's story takes the main stage, Chris Hemsworth's version of Hunt is always giving something in the background. His personal battles, his desire to win, his relationship with Lauda, it's all there and it's all expertly presented by the star of Thor. Tell you what, that would be one thing that would make Formula 1 more interesting for people that don't like it. Give him Mjolnir, then see what happens. Number 3. Josh Brolin, Men in Black 3. Using an actor's real-life child as a younger version of themselves is a nice trick filmmakers like to use from time to time. Is this what the producers of Men in Black 3 did when they needed a younger version of Tommy Lee Jones? No, they got Josh Brolin to do an absolutely spot-on impersonation instead. When Will Smith's Agent J travels to the past, he meets a younger version of his mentor, Agent K. Brolin is the spitting image of Jones, who plays the modern-day version of K. His voice, his mannerisms, even his actual face are almost identical to the star of No Country for Old Men. Wait a minute, Josh Brolin was in that too. Maybe he's been spying on Tommy Lee Jones this entire time. Number 2. Laura Dern, Star Wars The Last Jedi. Well, this one is going to get flack either way, so let's just get on with it. Despite taking the most risks and actually attempting to put his own spin on the Star Wars franchise, Rian Johnson's entry into the sequel trilogy was absolutely slated by some when it came out in 2017. Many things came under fire, including Laura Dern's character Vice Admiral Amelin Holdo. A senior figure in the Resistance, Holdo assumes command after General Leia Organa gets injured in the film's opening sequence. Holdo clashes with Poe Dameron, who eventually stages a mutiny against her. However, he ends up with some serious egg on his face when she sacrifices herself to save the entire Resistance fleet. Dern puts in an epic showing as a woman torn between doing what's right and doing what people expect of her. She is constantly undermined by Poe, but holds firm the entire time, never compromising on her beliefs as a leader. She might get a lot of hate, but Vice Admiral Holdo is a certified badass. And number 1, Vin Diesel, the MCU. Okay, yes, it might be a little bit weird that number 1 is a tree. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is full of big characters who love to mouth off. Tony Stark, Doctor Strange, Star-Lord, Spider-Man, Rocket Raccoon, etc, etc. And how many of them will be able to express as much emotion and character if their dialogue was reduced to just 5 different words? The hulking wooden member of the Guardians of the Galaxy, Groot, shone in his debut appearance in 2014. Voiced by Vin Diesel of all people, the colossal conifer ends up sacrificing himself for his friends and brilliantly changes his one line of speech from "I am Groot" to "We are Groot." No, you're crying. This performance alone would be enough to put him on top of this list, but Groot has continued to wow us in his subsequent appearances. Whether as a baby or a grumpy teenager, he's given us comedy and drama in equal measure, with only a handful of syllables in his arsenal. It might sound ridiculous, but per word uttered, Vin Diesel might be the best actor in the entire MCU. Now isn't that weird? And that's the list. Let us know what you thought of this video down in the comments below, and whilst you're down there, let us know which of these performances stood out the most to you and any others that we didn't include. Make sure you like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe and hit that notification bell, and head over to whatculture.com for more content daily. I've been Si for What Culture, and have a good week.